everybody. You're listening to and possibly watching the Comic Book Bears podcast. I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Steve Morey.
I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
And we are your hairy, heavy homos that talk about comic books, but you don't have to be a hairy, heavy homo to listen in or possibly stream in. Yes, we are coming to you on Memorial Day weekend because we have complicated lives. So we are here.
That's a good way of putting it.
And we are thrilled to bring back to the show our most frequent guest, artist and writer and educator, Steve Bryant, who is here to talk about his new collection of his, I would say, marquee work, Athena Voltaire. And if you're unfamiliar with Steve's work or Athena Voltaire, we're going to give him an opportunity to present his elevator pitch, and we have plenty to talk about that. So, Steve, thank you so much for joining us again.
Thanks for having me. I feel like I'm going to age out like a member of Menudo eventually if I'm on here too many times.
Well, you know, I'm still preparing for these two, like, offing me and just, you know, it's like, all right. But it's all great, Bill. It's time to go.
I've become really
thing only goes so far. Yeah.
I've become really self-conscious about this ever since you said I've been on more than anyone else, because now I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I have to deliver like Steve Martin on the Five Timers Club.
Well, we have a green jacket for you, and it's coming right there. Oh!
It's better than this ratty
I was
asshole.
going to say, at this point, it ought to feel just like coming home, right? Like it ought to, just smooth sailing.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've already asked if you guys are going to be at Heroes Con again this year, so I'm excited about that. So yeah, it's always fun.
Well, definitely, and we will talk about that because I know with Heroes Con, obviously that's a show that you definitely don't miss, and I'm sure there might be a couple other shows coming up that you might be making appearances at. So we want to plug those as well.
Well, I'll let you.
Excellent.
I'm out of clever today. I'm out of clever.
Yeah. You know what? We're all on vacation in this. So.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a 3-day weekend. It's Sunday. We're not clever on today. Yeah, we're taking there's a sassy break on Sundays.
Okay, good.
Sassy break.
I like
So Steve, if people are unfamiliar with your work or yourself, why don't you just give us the elevator pitch? Let's present it out to the people. What's your story and what's the story of Athena Voltaire?
I write and draw comics. I began my career drawing for role-playing games, actually literally in another century, long time ago. And I started when I was trying to break into comics. I would, instead of shopping samples, I started to shop a pitch instead, thinking that might be a way to differentiate myself. I didn't end up selling the pitch, but a webcomic place did hear about it and was very interested. And I started that pitch, Athena Voltaire, in 2002. Since then, I've been doing it. The elevator pitch for the book is it's 1930s pulp adventure, kind of Indiana Jones, starring a woman pilot. You've got ancient artifacts, occult creatures, Nazis, explosions, exploding Nazis, the best kind. Now I'm warmed up for convention season. That's the riff. But yeah, I'm excited. I've got the book back after a captive relationship with Action Lab. So.
Okay, so I unfortunately wasn't cool enough to have been tuned into the premiere of Athena Voltaire when it was a webcomic. But I was cool enough to start with Speakeasy and then from that into Ape.
Yep.
So how many publishers have you been through? Is it 5 at this point, including Dark Horse? Or?
I feel like I've got a kill list. Like I've got a string of dead bodies behind me. Because there was Speakeasy and there was Ape. And our imprint at Dark Horse was Sequential Pulp, and that folded up. And then Action Lab. So I guess 4.
4.
But now, what was the whole thing with Siskel and Ebert when they were originally doing At the Movies or sneak previews on WTVP out of Chicago, and then network with At the Movies, and then they eventually just said we're going to put our name on it. I'm just publishing it myself now, so I really have no one to blame if I don't like my friends or something.
Well,
I'm the dummy that makes the choices.
That's kind of an interesting kind of segue into so when you started Athena Voltaire, I mean, self-publishing was not what we think of it as today. I mean, there wasn't the avenue for those, for that type of self-publishing, although it did start as a webcomic. But with people, I can remember when self-publishing, or at least kind of online and crowdsourcing, kind of hit my radar. It was people like Iron Spike that kind of showed it to me and stuff, and went through and kind of broadcasted how this could be a tool for independent creators to use and to avoid having to get signed up with a publisher and to do kind of self-publishing. Like, how has that landscape changed for you? And like, so what's it like doing that shift? Has it been a fairly, other than some of the kind of legal complications and things with publishers, has it been a fairly easy shift to be able to kind of take the reins yourself and do it? Or have you had to like learn new tricks and learn a new part of the industry that you haven't before?
That's a great question. And I hope I can be concise. That's always my issue.
I mean, that question took 6 minutes to lay out, so concise is not a
That's
okay. So you're saying I got
concise and
runway.
Caleb don't exactly go hand in hand.
not really. I'm a wordy motherfucker. I'm like Stan Lee in the early 70s. It's just like
Steve, if your answer doesn't go like this and it goes like this, it's okay.
That's pretty much all my answers. So
Okay, great.
I feel right at home. But yeah, okay. So when I like I mentioned, when I started, I was working in role playing games, and I started off as a graphic designer that did some illustrations in games, and then was an art director. And when I was doing that stuff, I knew the production parts of it, and I got used to preparing a quote for a printer and stuff like that. So I had those skills when I started in comics, and that was sometimes a pain in the ass for whoever was publishing, because I would frequently ask for things that they weren't usually doing. The first book we did through Action Lab was a 3-issue Athena Voltaire miniseries called The Volcano Goddess. And I specifically wanted a matte finish cover, and Action Lab's books all had UV coated gloss covers. And I was so pissed when the book came back, even though I had specified that I wanted it matte. Because it came back just with the did I say UPC? UV coated. See, old man brain. But it had this, shiny UV coating, and it just ruined the book for me. And so I've always had those, I shouldn't say always, but for 37 years now, I've had an idea of what I wanted to do. And the nice thing with crowdfunding, for a while, it worked well in terms of putting creators in touch with directly with their audience. And with the rise of digital print on demand, there are a bunch of great places that can put together really nice comics. But the problem with that is, if you're paying $3 to $5 for a single issue, in order for you to make any money on it, you've got to have the higher price tag and stuff. So I think that was where the Kickstarter price structure kind of came about for a lot of us. And I've since the best thing that came out of Action Lab was being in touch with the printer that I use in China. And I've switched to offset printing, which is the large presses and the printing plates and stuff like that. So you can get a lower cost per issue, which makes it a little better. I'm still doing Kickstarter books priced at Kickstarter prices, but I'm also dedicating part of the print run to what I'm calling are my newsstand books. They don't actually go to the newsstand, but it'll be the $5 or $7 books that I take to conventions to introduce new readers to, because that's the problem with the Kickstarter stuff. I never want to undercut the people who supported it to actually make it printed. So those books are only available on Kickstarter now, and they're rare, or however you want to put it. And then I'm going to do an excess print run that'll be sold. That's for floppies. For books, what you see is what you get, and those are priced, I think, pretty close to market price for trades and hardcovers and stuff. Mm-hmm. Good God, was that long enough, or I can debate some more?
I love it. Well, because it gives us some insight. I mean, we can talk about, and we will, but you talk about plot and you talk about visuals all day long, but it's that behind the scenes mechanics. I think that not everybody who you walk into a comic shop and pick something off the shelf, or you order it from DCBS or whatever, I don't know that a lot of people really think about the mechanics of how this goes from, how these things go from inside somebody's brain, and the process to getting a product in not only your hands, but a mass-produced product, and what that kind of development looks like, which, is a major part of the industry, and is a major part of the mechanics of this. And, there's so many comics, especially, really brilliant comics made by indie creators that deal with the meta mechanics of actually making comics. And unless you have some insight to that, you're not picking up on all that. So that's one of the things I love talking about, through that creative process with folks like you about. Because it gives so much insight and enlightenment into not only the process, but also the other things that you all are thinking about besides putting words juxtaposed with pictures on pages for our entertainment. And I think that's so important, because those stories add light to the struggle of, struggles or whatever you want to call it, of making comics. So, thanks for sharing that.
No, that's part of the stuff that I like. From a fan perspective, I love like supplemental material in the back. Yeah. I digest that. If I'm reading a prose novel, I will read the acknowledgments and the afterwords and everything. I want to, get as much out of it as I can. I miss deluxe Blu-rays where you get a ton of info, or you get a director's commentary, or John Carpenter or Kurt Russell talking about how they filmed certain shots. I love all of that. And so for me, when I put together a book, I'm thinking about paper stock. I'm thinking about the paper weight, cover weight. I want it to have heft. And then I also think about all the cool stuff in the back. And I know some people may look at that as filler or fluff, but to me, it's part of the process, and it's what I love when I get a trade from somebody else. And it's also one of the things that bums me out when I see somebody just slapping 4 issues together and calling it their trade. Because I want to spend time with the people that made this thing, and I want to learn about why this thing that I like works. I also know that's that's probably a little bit of my tism, coming out right there. But it's something that I enjoy. So hopefully, some people do enjoy it as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, back matter, it gives you so much insight into what the creator was thinking when they were making it, or thinking when they were putting this final work together. And, like you said, you almost feel like something's missing when you buy a trade and it's just the issues put together. Like there has to be something, like maybe a letter, maybe a little introduction or a postscript that says, hey, this work means da 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 da. This is how I came up with this idea, or this is the struggle that I had in putting it together, or I can't wait to make more. Something like that. Anything that just shows that, hey, thank you so much for buying all this together, but also getting to read a complete story. Because when you read in floppies, you're always looking for the next chapter. but getting to get a collected work is just it's a gift. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
I love being able to read it all together in one sitting and just not have to get my impatient brain sort of like
Right.
in the
And it's
background
also
going,
like a
"More."
wonderful option because there are some people that they have blinders on with the story.
Yeah.
They don't want to know
Yeah.
anything else.
Yeah.
And there's nothing preventing them from turning that page. But if that's their experience, fine. You made a very good correlation with home video, and it's a little different in that one of the reasons where we're not seeing as much audio commentary and special features is because the sales don't justify it
Right.
anymore. But at least with the printed version of the printed comparison of that, I'm glad that there are people like you and other people that do give the back matter, and because for me it's like gee, I wonder if I listen to music back here, and for me, like a good liner notes will be almost as enjoyable as the listening experience, particularly for reissues. So I'm very glad you're dedicated to that stuff.
Well, I mean, I don't have to be financially responsible. When you look at a publisher, they have to make sure that not only can they pay for their print run, but that they can pay the people who are on staff, and
Yeah.
they can pay health insurance. They can pay if they have an office. They have to make sure that they can pay property insurance and utilities there and all the boring stuff. And for me, if I fund this on Kickstarter, that just means that I've got a decent day job. That just means that I can pour stuff into this book and make a beautiful object. And like each book has its own identity. I was thinking about two of my favorite hardcover collections. There's the Rocketeer, like the slipcase edition that they did, the oversized one. That's up there, but also they did a Danger Girl one about 15 years ago. It was also an one through IDW, and they're completely different animals. They have completely different stuff in the back, but that's what makes each one of them special. It's not a cookie cutter experience. There's a bunch of there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had to go pull it off the shelf.
So yeah,
that's got some heft.
It's a beautiful book. And so yeah, I really love these beautiful objects. Whether it's a trade or a hardcover, just having something that I can revisit and immerse myself in.
Yeah.
Okay, so that leads perfectly into the Kickstarter. So why don't you tell us about this particular Kickstarter, which basically, from what I understand, combines everything that's come so far with Athena?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So unlike a lot of creators with Action Lab, I had a 10-year contract because my series existed for 12 years before I signed on with Action Lab, so I had an out date, whereas a lot of them kind of had a semi in perpetuity type of contract. So we did have some issues with issues not going out on time and stuff like that, and eventually the situation just kind of became pretty untenable, and I did a Kickstarter that I co-published with them for issues 9, 10, 11, and 12, which were collected into a book called Terror on the Orient Express. But the situation was not working. So, I told them when my contract is up, I'm out. And I may have joined a class action lawsuit about payment as well. So I was probably not their favorite person either. So when I sent the official letter that I would not be renewing the contract, I asked about buying my backstock, because if my book is not published by them, they're not going to make any money on it. Let's try to find something that works for both of us. And I never heard back. And I wrote 3 times and never heard anything back. So I realized the majority of my work is going to go out of print. And I don't want that to happen. My initial plan was to do 2 massive volumes and 1 Kickstarter to get it all back in print. The first volume would be repackaging the compendium. The second volume would be repackaging the Volcano Goddess, and the 2 books that came after, Sorcerer Pope and the Golden Dawn. And then the Orient Express book, since I co-published that, I've got a ton of those in my storage unit. But then I realized that was going to be way too much of a financial obligation if somebody wanted to support it, especially for material that they had in some other form. So you can kind of see how, this starts turning into like Lucy and Ethel's wacky plan right there. And so I decided I wanted to make it worthwhile for someone who had already bought the book, the previous books. So oversized hardcover. So it's going to be 7.5 by 11, which is like the size that Tim Seeley's doing Hack Slash and Ron Randall's doing Trekker the Complete Journey.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm using for my template on these. But another issue that I had when I put together the compendium, it remastered the web comics, and there's a lot of slapdash stuff that made it into that book that was not necessarily clear storytelling. And I had like 6 different colorists on it because I couldn't pay anybody, and I had a lot of people doing me favors. And not the color work wasn't slapdash, but my art was, because I was remastering a couple of existing stories and breaking them up and reworking them. And my line art in the compendium was kind of a time capsule all jumbled together of 12 years worth of work cut up and rearranged. So it doesn't feel fluid. And then we're jumping colorists, throughout. And so I decided, because apparently I'm George Lucas Jr., that I'm gonna get it right this time, damn it. And so, I mentioned this to Chris Murrin, who's been editing all the Athena stuff for me now for 12, 13 years now. And I said, I want you to look through this, through each one of the PDFs, find transitions that aren't working, find storytelling that isn't good, find dialogue that can be polished, and, tell me what your thoughts are, because I want to tear it down and rebuild it. And so that was the first thing I asked Chris about. The second thing was Jason Millay, who's been coloring my stuff for about 10 years now, who I've known for going on 30 years. I asked him to look through all the work and smooth out the coloring. Since we're jumping person to person to person, and sometimes they weren't seeing what everybody else was doing, there would be a palette or a style change within a singular scene. So Jason smoothed all that out. And then my big task from a drawing point of view was getting all the characters on model, because some of the early stuff, not on model. And from there, it spiraled a little bit. Because then it became, well, this hand is really badly drawn, or this storytelling does not work. Why do I have this? Oh yeah, because I was really lazy when I first started, and I would do lots of close-ups and lots of medium shots, and 4-panel page, whereas this should probably be about 7, and we can ping pong here. And yeah, like I said, it was madness. But I'm about 3/4 of the way through the redraws that I need to do, and I've got the 2 shortest and 2 easiest stories that I saved for last. So it's going to go faster as I go, but yeah, that's been the way it's been shaking out. Jason has finished the two longest stories on coloring, so we're keeping pace, and I feel like we should be done right around the time that the funds come in from Kickstarter for this volume. And then volume two, not as much to rework because I only drew one story in there, so I'm just going to obsess about 66 pages out of that sucker. Then Jason will smooth out the colors a bit, but so volume two should go a little quicker as well.
Yeah. In terms of the volume two, because of who the original publisher was, is that going to incorporate any of the pulp stories that you put out?
The prose
Yeah.
book? No, and that's been the other thing I want to do because I love everybody I collaborated with, and I want to. Nobody made any money on that book, and I've got a handful of copies, but I would really like to. And this is on the to-do list once I survive these two books. I want to get it back in print, and I'm looking at something like, Amazon's self-publishing allows for. I don't know if I can give, a dozen authors permission to print them at author rates. But I think that would be ideal because then everybody could print them out. And that was one of the books that I know that Action Lab had printed like 10,000 of them. And if I could have gotten that off their hands, everybody that worked on the book would, get 500 copies or whatever. And they could sell them at shows or use them for kindling. But, I never heard back. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something I want to do. And I've talked with Chris before. I would love to do more of those books because that takes me back to like my early days doing black and white game art and just doing a spot illo and having my really talented writer friends, show me how my character should be written is pretty handy. So I'd love to do more of them.
Okay, great.
So but I got to get this first one back in print or later. Was that a circuitous enough answer?
Circuitous enough, but it was such a treat to see a comic property, treated in that format. It's not done enough. The prose stories involving 4-color characters, there's just not enough of them, and the ones that are out there are pretty damn good. So.
The idea for that book
it's
goes
one of
back
my favorites in the collection there.
Well, thank you. The idea for that book goes back to when we were at Ape Entertainment. Ape co-president Brent Irwin said you should really do a book of pulp style stories for this, and then Chris Murrin volunteered to edit that before he started editing the comics, and then my first remaster with the compendium slowed down the release of Pulp Tales, and I think that's the real reason that Chris took over editing the other stuff, just to make sure that I got my ass done on these books, so that we could put the friggin' Pulp Tales out. And he's been saddled with me ever since.
So, in terms of the stock, do you think maybe some of your stuff is stuck in that diamonds, like quagmire?
I think what Diamond is doing to all but one of their publishers is a really horrible thing, because it's these publishers' work, and they're not being paid for it. However, there is one publisher that is probably experiencing a bit of karma from how they treated their creators. That may have caused a class action lawsuit, not to name names, but yeah, I think some of that may be falling victim to that, which also wouldn't have happened if somebody had responded to my email. Yeah. Can I sound passive aggressive, or do I just sound like a dick?
No.
Or is it a little of both?
I think you could ratchet up the passive aggressiveness actually even more.
And you can
Because
ratchet
I
up the
think,
dickness too.
yeah, just all the way
I'll
off
work on
camera.
it.
No, I mean, I actually think it's the exact opposite, Steve. I think you sound like you sound like somebody who's actually being very polite, all things considered, who is trying to say things in a way that acknowledges number one that there is some illegal activity happening, and that you're following your lawyer's advice and not saying anything you don't need to say. And the other part of this is you're doing so in a way that is professional, acknowledging that you're on the opposite side of the ball of some certain things, and that there's some that there's I don't whether it goes to litigation or not, but there is certainly an argument to be had that there was not a meeting of the minds on certain things, and that there are things in the works or things that have been in the work to settle that. But you're not taking necessarily personal digs at somebody for it, and I think that that's a truly mature way to do that, because I can say at least two people on this podcast have a foot in the attorney world. And we've seen people who, when they're in that situation, decide to take every opportunity whatsoever to personally and very publicly diminish people, and that there's not necessarily any need for that either. And so I think that you're taking a very high road approach to this. You don't sound passive aggressive or dickish to me at all, but maybe that's because I deal with some aggressive and extremely dickish human beings on the other side of these things.
And I mean, honestly, nobody sets out to make a bad comic. Nobody sets out to. I really genuinely believe nobody sets out with the intention of starting a publishing house to exploit people or screw people over or cause hurt feelings or anything like that. I think sometimes the realities of this are all different than what we hope for. Mm-hmm. And like there were a lot of people that were involved in founding Action Lab that were wonderful, that I trusted then and I trust now, because they were not part of any of the decision making. So I know that like some of the Action Lab guys end up kind of getting their little scarlet letter because of being involved in that. Yeah. They did not set out with any intention like that. Dave Dwanch, Sean Pryor, Sean Gabarin, all those guys are aces in my book. And then, Jamal Eigel, who wasn't one of the founders, but was there. Like all of those guys, they're all wonderful, and so I don't blame any of them. And I want to make sure that I don't just paint it all with a broad brush. So yeah, that's. Do I hear a dog?
Yeah, sorry, mine. The squirrel had the audacity to come into the zip code, so mine had to let him know about how he wasn't living right. No, I mean, to your point though, yeah, not everybody who works for not everybody who worked for Enron stole people's money, and so just because somebody's associated with something, not everybody was Bernie Madoff. Right. So I think that's worth saying. And to your point, I mean, I know some of those names, and I would co-sign. I mean, Jamal Eigel is a great human being. I think the world of Jamal.
Absolutely.
And I have no reason not to say that. So I think that's great that you're making that clear too.
Yeah. Well, and while we're going over the Steve's former publisher list, I want to point out that probably, and I didn't realize it at the time, probably the best publishing experience I ever had was with David Hedgecock and Brent Irwin at Ape Entertainment. I did not realize what a creator forward publisher they were. And by saying that, it doesn't diminish anybody else. It was just they probably to their own personal really did put the creators first. So I love those guys.
Yeah.
Was Ape Entertainment? I know Speakeasy was Chicago based. Was Ape Entertainment too?
Speakeasy was Canada. That was Adam Fortier was the guy behind that.
Had a ton of Chicago creators though.
Yeah. Well, I think Adam, who started the company, had done some promotional work for Devil's Due, maybe, and Devil's Due is Chicago based.
Okay, that might be the connection.
But yeah,
I'm just thinking of works like Atomica and Ben Licious' stuff, and I had assumed that was a Chicago imprint.
I think Ben's from like North Carolina.
Okay. Well, it's your territory, Steve.
And I
The
like
best name in comics ever,
well,
too, man.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But and everybody forgets who the big one that we saw for like some of their earliest work through Speakeasy was Darwin Cook.
Yeah.
He did that. I can't remember what the Magician book was. I don't know if he was doing interiors or just covers. I wish I could remember the name of it, but yeah, I mean it was wild. He was at the Speakeasy booth. You know the year that they were at Wizard World. It was pre New Frontier and stuff like that.
Very cool.
Spell
yeah.
game.
So actually,
What was spell what?
Spell game.
Yes.
Yeah. So my path to Athena Voltaire was from Atomica into
Oh,
into the.
I nudged my mic.
Yeah.
So well, thank you for that, because yeah, we had that one issue through Speakeasy. I feel like still the biggest feeder in of the early days stuff is the Comic Geek Speak guys too. Just their early support, I think, also really pushed our signal. And then from there, you know, Word Balloon and you and just everybody has been really gracious. You know, I don't want to. I don't want to get old George Bailey here, but you know,
but no, it does seem to remain, you know, both on the publishing and the podcasting side, it remains a very supportive community.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was 11 o'clock.
If we have tech issues, there's
Oh,
people
yeah.
that you can reach out to on other shows, and you know, it remains a very supportive community.
11 o'clock comics. I can't believe I forgot them. And you mentioned that, and that reminds me of Around Comics. Yeah, all of that. Like, I really benefited greatly from the early days of podcasting, and just met a lot of really wonderful people. That includes you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, and I'm trying to remember back. I know, because before I was on this show with Bill, I was a listener of this show, and then also at the time was a listener of Wendy Freeman's double page spread. And I'm trying to remember if I think you've gone on that several times as well.
I've been on there. I love Wendy. She's not doing it anymore, is she?
No, she's gotten super into Muay Thai now. She's doing everything. Like, she's just fighting these days.
Yeah, she actually just while we started the show, she texted Caleb and myself about what happened with her today.
Yeah,
their match today. So
I haven't seen her in a couple of years, but I love Wendy. She's awesome.
She's amazing. Yeah, she is absolutely amazing.
She's the closest thing to our Goldilocks.
Yeah.
If we actually.
Oh, I see. See, it takes
so
to catch on.
She's allowed in the house. Yeah.
And she's just
right. All the porn she wants.
Yeah. So Steve, I have a very geek question.
That's good, because I'm a very geek.
Yeah. So Caleb showed off the Rocketeer, and I know you've drawn the Rocketeer so many times. You know whether it's commissions or whatever. What franchise would you want to see Athena Voltaire cross over, but it can't be the Rocketeer?
Okay, because I do have a Rocketeer story crossover, but
Okay. And it doesn't have to be comics. We don't have to limit it to just comics.
Well, I could see her flying the Jones boys around. Henry and Junior.
Yes.
But you know, my first thought was the Shadow.
Yeah.
Because I also have a Shadow story that I'll never get to do, so I'll repurpose it so it's Walter Gibson, the creator of the Shadow, and kind of riff on what Paul Melmont did in Chinatown Death Cloud Peril, where he did a story that was like Lester Dent, the creator of Doc Savage, teaming up with Walter Gibson, the creator of the Shadow, and they're both similar to the characters they created. So yeah, probably the Shadow would be on there. Gosh, I'm trying to think of who else would be fun.
I have my wish list. So If I can get a Steve Bryant crossover book with Athena Voltaire in the Iron Giant universe, that would make me nine kinds of giddy. I think that there's a really amazing story in there somewhere. And yeah, I from the first time I read Athena Voltaire, I was like, if Caleb has his druthers, we're getting into Iron Giant territory. I mean, it just worked, and that's such a whether you're talking about the Rocketeer, I mean, just that kind of those universes and that theme fits so well with that. It's just like, yes, like yeah.
I love that Art Deco kind of aesthetic.
Yeah.
And Iron Giant and the Rocketeer helmet both have so many like aesthetic similarities that are just really cool. And I never that never would have crossed my mind, but you say that, I'm like, ooh, that would be neat.
Mine would be really, and it's public domain, sort of. I would involve Hildy Johnson and Walter Burns from His Girl Friday into Athena's world.
So you said that, and I was like, oh, I'd kind of like to see her team up with Nick and Nora Charles.
Nice, yeah.
That'd be very cool. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So something else that just along those lines, I rewatched Murder by Death on the Roku channel. And you got to get past some of the wildly racist stuff from the period of like Peter Sellers playing Charlie Chan. But I was watching that just thinking, man, I would like a remake of this played not as a satire, but teaming up all these great detectives. And so, yeah, I may have thought in the back of my head, if I ever ask Alex Segura to write a story for me, I would want him to do Athena Voltaire with, a premise similar to Murder by Death. So, yeah, I that's the problem. I get all these ideas, and I'm so flippin' slow at drawing. Plus, apparently, every 10 years I shed my skin and redraw it all. Because suddenly I've gotten better or deluded myself into thinking that. So
I have a question about that. I was going to ask this a while ago, but we kind of went on a different circle. So I mean, I'm not a visual artist. I don't draw. I'm just not a skill set that I have. But I'm reminded there are certain books that go long enough where you can look back on them and you're like, oh, you can see the development of this person as an artist. I think about Luther Strode, The Legend of Luther Strode, that Tradd Moore drew that. When Tradd Moore started drawing that, he was fresh out of SCAD, and by the time he ended that book, he was Tradd fucking Moore, right? Like you can kind of just see that. And Justin Jordan, who I privilege of being friends with, he'll talk about that. Like he loves that because you can see that development. So as you're going back and redrawing these, number one, like what is it? Clearly you've been an artist for long enough. Like it's just like anything else. You've evolved and you're not the same place that you were. So how number one, I guess, how difficult has it been to not like retrospectively editorialize yourself when you're redrawing these stories, or is that exactly what you're doing to kind of go back and visually retell these stories at the level that you're at now versus where you were at then? Are you making the same editorial decisions? Are you going in places that you didn't think you'd be able to go? What's that process been like?
I have to try to put limitations on myself because it's really easy once you start going down the rabbit hole to want to redo everything. I still don't necessarily like how I draw, but I like more than I dislike. And that's been kind of a new development over about the last 5 years, I think. So I feel like, all the jokes that you hear creators talk about, I shouldn't say jokes, but like the worries. Oh, I'm not ready to do my dream project.
Kind of
I was not ready, but it's only been in the last 5 years that I'm like, okay, I'm ready for this now. But I'm trying I want to preserve parts of it, as much of it as I can, but sometimes there are just bad storytelling choices. And what I mean by that is, everything's an eye level shot. It's all a medium shot, or it's all a close up. And when it's a close up, it's just the head or the head and the shoulders.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if you look at somebody like Steve Rude, and I'm now gesturing
Yeah.
intentionally, because if you look at Steve Rude, he'll do a face shot and he'll have the hands. They'll be moving and they'll be talking. And that adds so much more. So I'm trying to do more of that as well. When breaking up close-ups with that sort of thing, trying to keep characters on model. For a long time, I felt a certain level of shame over using photo reference because I know everybody used reference, but have I talked to you guys about Aphantasia before?
I don't think so.
I don't think
No.
so. Yeah, not that one.
I think I
Well,
would
one
remember.
of the big things that helped me figure out how to like my work more, about 5 years ago, an article about Disney animator and director Glenn Keane. I think it was in like National Geographic, but the title of the article was "This Disney Animator's Mind's Eye is Blank or is Blind, but he still draws." And I read this article about this guy who can't visualize anything in his mind, Glenn Keane. He's the son of Bill Keane, Family Circus guy.
Okay.
But so for the longest time, I really thought that when people said I draw what I see in my head, that it was a figure of speech. I didn't realize that a bunch of you people actually can see stuff in your head. Like, you can tell me to visualize my daughter's face. I can close my eyes, black, nothing. And so, like, reading about that was huge. I think I can tie back my I can trace my the artistic experience that broke me. Seeing Steve Rude doing character sketches at Chicago Comic-Con in 1988. He's sitting there, line of people. Somebody tells him what they want. This is vivid in my memory, not visually, of course, but I vividly remember him sitting down and just, there was no wasted motion in his drawing. It was decisive, it was gestural, and everything was where it should be. And, that was my Mandalorian moment. This is the way. And I beat myself up for 30 years afterwards going, why can't I do this? I'm not hustling hard enough. I'm not working hard enough. I'm not retaining stuff in my memory. Well, no. And learning about aphantasia was a big thing for me. And so now when I look at the work, I can see so many of the things where I was leaning and not coming at it from a point of knowledge, and like understanding that's a part of my neurodivergence, and understanding that helped me to figure out how to draw better from memory, but also how to draw better from photographs. So I approached all the art instruction books that I previously had looked at, trying to get that Steve Rude kind of line, that Steve Rude decisiveness. And I just approached it completely differently and started to, when I would look, work from photo reference and look at the way that a face is structured, it's the curvature of the skull that is causing, this to be foreshortened, this socket to be foreshortened, and this one is more straight on. And just understanding the underlying structure better helped me to figure out more about when I was drawing. So sometimes it's really hard for me to put really crappy faces and crappy hands in particular into books. I'm trying to limit it to like the main good, our heroine and, all the good guys, and then the main bad guy. And, sometimes background Nazis, they're still going to look shitty, but they're Nazis. They deserve it.
You look shitty. Yeah.
So I know I went way far afield, but part of me would still like to have the older stuff preserved. But the other part of me is saying, I'm asking people to drop $50 on a deluxe hardcover, I want to fix as much of it as I can without redrawing everything.
Well,
But
speaking of, actually,
you guys can hold me to this. Before I started doing this remastering, I was over 3/4 of the way through the first new adventure we're going to have, the one that follows up Orient Express, the Devil's Sea. I'm not allowed to redraw any of that. I got to live with that. So, there may be a jump in issue 3 where suddenly Steve has leveled up because he's just redrawn 200 pages of work. But I have to live with that. So you guys have got to keep me honest on that.
Yeah, but also at the same token, there's plenty of creators that don't have a second shot, a second shot at the apple like this, and
True.
Celebrate that too.
Well,
that it's not locked. That you can tweak.
Well,
A little.
Well, Caleb brought out the Dave Stevens book. If you look at that, Dave's redrawn a lot of that stuff from the original Pacific issues. And I imagine if his health weren't an issue, he might have even, retouched even more, just because I get it. It's so much of this stuff is that pursuit of knowing that you can do better. And it's not so much, all George Lucas jokes aside, the more you learn about your craft, the more you want to more attention you want to lavish on your dream projects. And when Caleb was talking about artists that have grown, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Mark Schultz, Xenozoa Tales. Like, you look at, another big one for me, but you look at the first 5 issues, and it's pure Wally Wood. Actually, it's about the first 8 issues that are Wally Wood, and then it starts to shift over, and you start getting these elongated Byzantine Al Williamson looking figures, and that's going on for about 3 or 4 issues, and then we start moving into the dry brush, which he was influenced by a guy named Dan Smith, and you get a little more Frazetta in the way the figures are moving and structured. And I'm waiting for his, he's going to be doing another Xenozoic book through Flesk. I can't wait to see where he ends up now, because looking at his ink work, it's always changing. So he's kind of the opposite of what we were saying about Steven's rework and stuff, or me circling back on this, because his stuff, it's like cutting open a tree and counting the rings. You can see it all.
So this was the first I heard of Athena beyond this. So you have a lot more Athena's stories to tell, you think?
So yeah, with the I gotta get moving. I'm 60, dude. But with so the whole Action Lab thing. Originally, I signed on because of Dave and Sean and Jamal. And I was excited to be there. And it had a lot of the same energy that early Ape Entertainment did. And my plan was to do the Hellboy model and do a miniseries trade. But around that time was when I went back to school. And Brian Seaton from Action Lab offered to license the book from me, which meant they would pay a nominal fee for someone to draw it, and I could write it, and we could get more stuff out. So that's kind of where the Athena Voltaire ongoing series came about. And the plan was we were going to do 2 years of it, which would be 24 issues. We got 8 out before they were not able to pay the artists anymore. But I have that 24 issue arc planned out. So Orient Express, which was the last one I kickstarted, that's the halfway point. So we have a story arc that follows that up called The Devil's Sea. And that's, so I try to frame each one of these stories slightly differently. Orient Express was Alien, pretty much. You're trapped on this vehicle, and there's a creature killing everybody. The next volume, Devil's Sea, there's a lot of stuff where you're racing against time to beat the Nazis. This one, we arrived too late, and so we try to fix the aftermath. So that's the story on that. And then we go back to probably the story I've been most excited to do, which is my LA Confidential meets H.P. Lovecraft story. Or it's not quite Lovecraft. Maybe it's LA Confidential meets John Dies at the End. It's it's somewhere in that kind of area. And I really enjoy drawing plainclothes Athena, civilian clothes. And I've been working really hard to figure out how to draw dudes in suits. And, I'm not Andy Parks. I can't draw fedoras well. So I've been working hard to just get that whole vibe, because I really want to do that. So we've got that arc. And then, so this is 1 and 2 of what I'm going to be doing when I finish the hardcovers. The third one kind of ties up this mystery Claude Rains looking Mr. X guy that we've had, fucking stuff up for Athena since the beginning of it. So that'll be kind of the end of where it's going. And then I've got, my list of, I want to do a haunted house. I want to do a murder mystery. I want to do, a Rocketeer story, or scratch the serial numbers off and it'll be a guy with a jetpack Joe. I don't know. But, there's a lot of stuff I want to do. And I finally have kind of gotten to the point where I'm going to be a writer on Shaken and Stirred, and Rob and I are going to do more of that. I'm going to be a writer on Evie and the Helsings, and Don and I are doing more of that. And they're kind enough to let me do covers on those. But beyond that, I'm just drawing wise. I'm going to be living in the 1930s probably for the rest of my career.
Okay, great. Well,
And
if I can just make just a little suggestion, just a tiny little suggestion. At some point, if Athena comes across a trio of, like, say, airplane mechanics or federal agents, and one looks like a guy from New Jersey and another one looks like a guy from North Carolina and another one looks like a guy from Arkansas, I don't think we'd hate it.
Point taken. And well, so the nice thing is, and I say this as somebody who in his younger days had hair down to here, we don't have to worry about, it would be a very minor tweak to make you guys look period authentic. I'm
already wearing overalls. So.
Yeah.
Well, we all travel with cameras at all times, and I will be seeing you guys in a few months.
Yeah.
Which I'm very much looking forward to. I can't wait to get back there and see you at Heroes.
It's a great show. You weren't there last year.
I wasn't. No, I didn't get it. This is going to be my first time back, and I think 3 years, 2 years or 3 years.
2 years, I think,
years.
right?
Yeah,
2 years.
But yeah, last year was a lot.
The 1 year, like, it wasn't until 2 years ago that we had all three of us.
Yeah.
We had a lot of problems. We had someone got COVID. Someone.
Well,
it was, and then I was out of commission with a gout attack.
I remember that on Facebook.
Yeah. So we've had crazy stuff go on the periphery involved with Heroes, but knocking wood, nothing like that's gonna happen this year.
3 weeks away, just 3 more weeks.
This is my third in a row, so I'm excited about it
Nice.
because I came in, I think, 2016 with my partner, and she had been a good traveler at conventions that had more media stuff. She's a grade school librarian. She's a nerd. She could entertain herself, but Heroes was so comic centric that she's like, no, that's okay. I don't need to go again. So so I didn't go for a number of years, and then 2 years ago I went with Mark Stegbauer, and last year I flew solo, and that was really cool. Um, I last year I did 2 conventions entirely solo, right down to having a hotel room to myself,
Ooh.
which maybe it's a sign of getting older, but once you get away from all the noise, just going in there and sitting in silence and reading was really cool.
Decompressing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
so nice.
I don't know.
Do you have any other shows this year?
San Diego.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Small Press L1 is my booth. We're I'm right across from Quirk Books, if you're familiar with them.
Yeah.
They
Oh
do
yeah.
a bunch
Yeah.
of great
Philly
pens.
Zone. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we're diagonal to the Peanuts booth, so that's how people can always find us.
Oh cool.
I say us. It's me, and then Chris will babysit my table for me, and that's about it.
Oh, that's so cool. But yeah, Heroes is 3 weeks away. San Diego's what now? 2 months, less than 2 months away.
Yeah, it's the end of July, and then
Yeah.
I think about 4 or 5 days after I get back I'm driving to Heroes, and then my partner and I are going to fly to Salt Lake City and rent a car, and we're going to do we can't do all 5. We don't have time for all 5 of the national parks, but we're going to do Arches, Bryce, and Zion, and then fly back home. And then I'll have like 3 weeks at home, and then it'll be it's San Diego.
Oh yeah.
So
That'll be great.
it's madness. That's all I got.
Well, we do have some images from the book, from the Kickstarter.
Oh, cool.
These are some of the pages that you've been working on and reworking, and then also some images of what the book will look like. The outside of the book will look like. So let me go see if I can pull them up real quick, so we can, for the people who are watching, they can actually see what we're talking about here. So a few of these images here are just pages from the book. Now this one, which one was this from? This was from...
It's from the first story in the book, the Brotherhood of Shamballa.
Okay.
And yeah, that's from the same story.
Yep.
So the page we saw before this was one of those redraws because I wasn't happy with... I played really fast and loose with depth of field in the original version of this sequence, so this tightened it up. The bar was no longer cavernous. Now I look at it, I'm like, oh, there's 4 things I'd do differently, but I'm going to shut up. The next page that you were looking at, that's almost entirely intact, but I'm pointing like you can see. I redrew in the large panel, I redrew the figures, and then I redrew the faces in panel 1.
Cool.
So, I mean, hopefully it's seamless. This is a page that doesn't have any redrawing, but Jason punched up the colors a lot. Mm-hmm. This is also from Shamballa. And this is a page that was drawn specifically when it was put into the compendium.
Yeah.
10 years ago. And yeah, this is me redrawing a page going, I think too much in terms of planes, foreground, middle ground, background, and trying to create a greater depth of field. It got away from me a little bit, but I think when Jason colors it, it'll hold together a bit better.
Oh, I think it's...
Skeletons are hard to draw, but they're fun if they look okay.
Yeah. There's a no bones about it joke there somewhere.
Like this. I love images like this because you see sort of, you could tell there's some work in progress, but at the same time, this is just gorgeous as it is. Colored will just kick it up even further. But yeah, it's great. I just like the action in this.
We jokingly called Jason the elevator because he elevates it.
Nice.
That's a new page from the
Vampire Queen.
Right? Vampire Queen, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so cool.
And that's from the vampire story as well. Most of those panels are intact. I redrew her figure because in the original version, her feet were really bad. Now they're just a little annoying to me. And I redrew her face. I redrew that page because I didn't like the staging I used on the big panel. And what I like about this one is it's the scene is a swipe from, but it was an exterior shot from The Third Man. But
Okay.
I swiped the perspective for it and the stairs and turned it into an interior scene.
Okay.
Cool.
But yeah, again, figuring out how to use photo reference better and not necessarily making it, I don't think you could look at it and say that's from The Third Man. But
Third Man, yeah.
Well, it's
Well-
it's key on the reference part of it, right? Because I mean, I hear people say that all the time. Oh, I photo reference this. I'm like, no, you trace that. Like that's obviously not what you're doing here, right? Like that's photo reference. I mean, you go back and listen to old interviews and stuff like that, and you'll hear all the greats, Wally Wood, Jack Kirby. They talk about the folders that they had to go back. I mean, Frazetta's kids talk about his photo reference stuff and all of his folders and stuff like that. Everybody photo referenced. I mean, that's not synonymous with with copying somebody's work, and I think more people need to realize that, because I think in a lot of like modern parlance that phrase has become to mean something that it's not.
well,
When people hear that and they're like, oh, and it's like, yeah, that's not the same thing, bro.
well, and I mean, Neil Adams, before he passed, did a really good YouTube video where he talked about, in his words, tracing photos. But if you look at how he's using them, he's not really tracing. He's drawing on top of the photo, but it's all informed with his knowledge of anatomy and structure.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the key thing. And I think that's where my work now looks better than it did 10 years ago, because there's a little more understanding of what you're doing for the photo reference.
Yeah,
We just knocked Bill out.
Oh.
Talking about
See.
reference again, Jesus.
Oh. Well, now this actually, these are images of what the finished product is going to be looking like. So this, the deluxe oversized hardcover, and again, you have PDF options available, so digital options available for people who, maybe not want to hold this gorgeous, piece of art in their hands and instead want to read it on their iPad or whatever. But yeah, absolutely, it's a great cover for this. And then the slipcase. Oof.
I was so nervous about doing that, but yeah, we've sold almost half of them. So
Yeah.
I just have to make sure that it lives up to it. Again, it's that desire to make beautiful objects, but then you've got to make sure that you deliver. So fingers crossed.
Well, I think you can do it, because I've seen and received many Kickstarter works from you in the past, and they're all gorgeous and wonderful, and this is obviously going to be more of that, which is great. So so I'm excited. And also, for anybody who's watching live or who's watching after the fact, we do have the link in the individual chats on various channels that you're watching.
That's
this
what
on.
I was checking just now about.
So we've got it on the Facebook, on the
Yeah,
YouTube, and on the Twitch. Twitch, I think, will disappear after this stops from going live, but I can. Usually, what I do is I'll have reruns occasionally on Twitch, so it'll be there as well. But yeah, so as of now, I just want to pull it up.
I
real
have
quick.
it right up.
Yeah.
Right up. Yeah. So it's at 152%, 22,940 pledges of 15 grand, with 15 days to go.
Yep,
So
15 days to go.
Yeah.
We are $1,005 away from unlocking the next stretch goal, which is the Adventure Club sticker. Hang on.
I love these stuff.
I like stickers probably more than an adult should. That's my
Oh. When you showed that front cover, I was like, that bottom right, that's
Which one?
the
You
Madeline
know.
Kahn.
Yes. So, and that was actually a gift from Chris Murrin at San Diego Comic-Con. So the damnedest thing is he found it for me because he knows that I may have a serious thing from Madeline Kahn. And um, he found the sticker for me, and I put it on my old iPad, and then I replaced the iPad. I stumbled across the artist that did those stickers at C2E2 last year, so I bought the same damn sticker. So yeah, sorry, that's more sticker talk than you wanted.
Okay,
Never
Steve,
enough.
so
Never enough.
for points of contact on the interwebs, where would people go apart from the Kickstarter
Um,
to sample your work?
So yeah, I nuked my Facebook, which also made it kind of interesting to try to find my way back to the studio links, because I still have Messenger, but I don't have Facebook anymore. And yeah, I nuked the Hellscape site also. But yeah, I'm on Blue Sky and I'm on Instagram, both of them as Steve Bryant Art.
Okay.
So yeah, that is where I be.
Right.
Nice.
All right. Well, thank you again for joining us. I'm certain it won't be the last time. We're just gonna keep going till we can't no more.
Well,
it's always a thrill having you on, and I'm so happy you got all the IP rights back, and that you're going forward with this project, and it looks gorgeous. It really does.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm excited, and all kidding aside, I can go off on so many tangents with all of you guys. You know, I want to talk NFC North with you, Bill, and I want to know more about the base that's hanging on Caleb's wall. And Steve, I have a million questions for your husband about costuming and stuff, because I never followed up on reaching out to him.
Well, I have to say, he still talks about meeting you and is absolutely going to be looking forward to seeing you again this year, because he will be coming on that Friday for HeroesCon. So
I only have his Instagram, and I'd like to exchange emails, because I think he would really be able to inform my character design class. So awesome. I'm glad I didn't scare him away.
No, he was really excited to meet you and was really happy to have that conversation. But yeah, he's definitely looking forward to talking with you again, and would love to, help you or give you some references or whatever.
Yay! Excellent.
Yeah,
and it would be good for Jason to talk to somebody other than Janet Leigh. So
we love Janet Leigh. We love
really
Janet
good
Leigh,
though.
Yeah.
Okay, now I need to make mental note. I sorry I blanked on his name. It's Jason.
Jason, yeah.
I should be able to remember that.
Yep. Well, I'll be dragging him along, so.
Well, Steve, we're going to transition to the second half of our show, but you're more than welcome to stick around. We do tangents too, so
if you don't mind, Carrie's on the phone with her mom until 9 your time, 8 my time. So I might vanish mysteriously at about in 45 minutes, but I'd love to hear what you guys are reading.
Great. No, and we do think there's one book, because I know you've been a pet owner in the past, and I think our current pet owner.
Yes.
You might want to stick around for this book.
Okay. I got to figure out how to mute myself on this.
Okay. There should be a mic button there.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But
there we go.
But that's like really for coughing fits, like whenever I saw
or in my case, when the cats start screaming, because
I was going to say, when I need to tell my dog to shut the fuck up, and I don't want to seem like a bad pet owner, I just hit that.
Well, do you want to get right into Cena's book first?
Yeah, I think let's do that.
Why don't we do that first? Okay. Who wants to take the reins? Steve, Caleb?
Sure. So yeah, I mean, we can just jump right into this. So
yeah.
Several months ago, Cena Grace started a Kickstarter for a new book that he was working on. Essentially out of a sense of grief for the loss of his dog Henry. Henry passed away, I believe, about 1.5 years ago, and it was just very devastating for him. But he wanted to work through it by collecting a lot of the doodles that he was doing, a lot of the work that he was sort of one panels that he was doing into a cohesive story about how he worked through the grief, how he processed the loss of Henry, what Henry really meant to him, and just kind of navigating that in the world. Because when you lose a pet, especially a companion like a dog who's there with you all the time, or a cat, or any pet really. Um, there's an extreme sense of loss. It hits you very hard, but also sometimes you don't know how to express that or how to operate with that grief in the world. There's still this stigma that, oh, if you lose a pet, it's not as big a deal as if you're losing a partner, or losing a family member or something like that. No, your dog, your cat, your rabbit, anything that you pour so much love into, and is such a major part of your life, that loss is extreme. That loss is as powerful as if it were a person, or somebody else special to you, because this little four-legged or two-legged or two-winged creature, this is part of your life. This is part of who you are. And with Henry's passing, he wanted to honor him, to provide a tribute, but also to work through what he was feeling and to express how important this was to him. So he came out with Life on Pause, and I think we all have our copies. It's like a book club. It's just our little book club. And it was really just, it was great being able to support him for this on the Kickstarter, but also to actually get the finished product when he was able to complete it. And I know I got some other things, like I think some of the things that he had with the
back matter.
Yeah, they're just these beautiful
Speaking
little
of
card
back
stickers.
matter, Steve, we got a lot of back matter.
Oh yeah, there was sketches. Some people were able to have sketches of their pets. There was a bandana with a beautiful design that he had done. I got one of those too.
I did too.
Yeah, I mean, just some really great stuff. But talking about the book, so I started reading this and I had to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty early on. Like, I got maybe about 6 pages in and I was like, okay, I have to put this down now. Because everything that he's saying in here, everything that he's expressing in here, I've personally gone through that same thing, and I think we all have. I mean, we are from animal households, all three of us, and we've had pets in our life, companions in our life that have passed on, that just meant the world to us. Yeah, I mean, I've got one that you can kind of see sleeping on the chair here. Thankfully, you haven't been able to hear her snoring, because she has been doing that periodically. And then I've got another cute little one down on the ground who is passed out completely, dead to the world, basically. But the two of them, they do mean the world to me. I, have also recently lost a few animals myself, and just how we deal with that. And Cena's book is a great. I would say is a great expression of how he dealt with it. Yeah, so it took me a couple starts to actually be able to go and read through the whole thing.
I
So
mean, I think we
experience.
all kind of hit pause on page 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all kind of hit pause on page 6, because that is something. That imagery is something that anybody who had a pet in their life and had affection for it,
Mhm.
it stops you dead in your tracks. It really does.
Yeah.
And like I'm with you, Steve, but I also think, one of the taglines for the book was how there's no wrong way to process the grief,
Right.
and and Cena was being Cena, in dealing with the loss of a pet. We have divergence into the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and
Yeah.
Vanderpump, and I also thought one of the coolest things was how he incorporated the other dogs in his life that were
Yes.
from friends, or that were rescues or fosters that other friends were contending with. And I mean, out of the time we've been together, I haven't been a pet owner. I had animals from the time I was 6 years old until my late 40s, and I could not take the loss anymore. I just could not. I've had a lifetime of both human and pet loss, and this book kind of reinforced, like, I made the right decision, and I also am losing out on not having it, not, because we could love animals, we have the love to give, but the saying goodbye is so hard,
Yeah.
and with having this in hand to just say, hey, there, like you said, there isn't one way to go about it. There isn't one way. Things that he explores here about, like, how almost angry you get at current pet owners after a loss, just by
Yeah.
the very fact that they have that pet still in their life. It really, it didn't speak to me. It sang to me,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I started reading this book, and I sent you guys a message in our little group chat or whatever. It's like, all right, I'm finally sitting down and reading this, and I think it was about 3 minutes later, and I was like, all right, I tapped out. I can't do this. Like, I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
come back to this. I can't. I started and tried to read this book several times, and then finally got to where I was able to push through it because for all the reasons that you guys said, and I'm not going to sit here and just echo you guys, because I mean everything you said is on point. But what I appreciated, um, in what this book did, and the work that Cena did, one of the things that I've struggled with as a person, my husband and I we're dog people. We currently have 4 dogs. We were dog people. I had a dog when I met him 14 years ago, and he also had a dog, and we brought those together. One of the things that I struggled with in articulating, talking to people who maybe are pet owners, but maybe you're not the same type of pet owners, or maybe you're not pet owners, is the impact that the loss of my dogs. I mean, I've got a picture hanging on my wall. I've got artwork all over my house of those animals. But the impact when I've lost, the couple of pets that we've lost so far, and the how that grief is processing. And Steve, you mentioned this earlier. You always get the comment that people say, well, right, but it's a pet. This is not the
Yeah.
same thing as the loss of a parent or the loss of a human, of any human. And you know what? That's true. That is true. You're right. It's not. A dog is not a person. They're a dog. They don't need to be anything else, right? Some people say that in a diminutive way, and it's not a diminutive thing. No, you're right. That dog is not a human being. It's a dog. It doesn't need to be anything else, and that grief is still absolutely as palpable, absolutely as impactful on your life. Because here's the thing about animals and pets, right? You're getting completely requited, unconditional love from those creatures that are dependent on you, and you realize that you are dependent on them, and you live your life, and you have these quiet moments with them in your house, in the most personal spaces of your life. And that has real tangible impact when you have to say goodbye. And I say it all the time. It's not cliche, but it's kind of what I tell people, and I stand by it. Is that grief you feel, that loss you feel, that is a very hard but earned price that you get to pay for the years of dedication and love and experiences that those animals get you, and the wisdom that they get you, that they're able to teach you, that people can't teach you. And that's where I go back to say that no, pets aren't people. They don't need to be. They're something else, and in a lot of ways they're something better. And so as he was processing that grief and that emotion and kind of talking about the different ways, I saw so much in that, as Bill said, that just went back into my life and the way that we process those things, and the cartooning, the illustrations that he did, and the pacing that he labeled through it. There was so much catharsis in that, and I felt that with him as a reader, as a writer, as somebody who doesn't have all of the ways to articulate myself that he does. I appreciated that, and the way that he explored that in a way that was not judgmental, but was factual. And that's a lot of the things, you read things sometimes, and somebody can say things as a matter of fact, and you're like, well, that felt very judgmental. And there's not that in here. It's not judgmental. It's just a matter of fact. It is a fact that these things happen. It is a fact that he felt these ways. It is a fact that he responded these ways, and stuff. And I think that was incredibly nice to feel, because so often we process and deal with grief internally and alone. And we all are lucky enough that I can speak for for myself, and for Steve Morey and Bill, and Steve Bryant. You may have these people in your life, and by all means, I hope that some of us qualify that. If you ever need anything, reach out. But I know when I've experienced grief, whether it's been the loss of a person that I consider my brother, or a human being or a pet, I've been able to talk to Bill and Steve. But there are things that I've never shared with you guys, and thoughts and experiences that are internalized, and to see those illustrated in this form was very much kind of like, oh, okay, like that's a human experience, right? That somebody has articulated in a way that I didn't know how to, or I never felt safe to, or never felt like I could for some reason. And man, I went back and I looked back at my phone. I've still got the letter the letter I wrote to my dog on the day that I took her on that last ride, and just reread that in a way that I had not been able to in a long time. And so, Cena, if you ever happen to listen to this, just thank you for doing that. Because it helped me in my processing of grief, and of grief that I will have in the future, because that's an inevitable thing about pet ownership. So I just want to say, just very personally, thank you for this very personal work, because it meant a lot.
A couple things that I took away from this book, Bill mentioned, he kind of dovetails into references to Real Housewives and Vanderpump Rules. And this is one of those moments, this page is really great, where he talks about Lisa Rinna. When Lisa's mother passed away, Lisa Rinna on the show was having a very difficult time dealing with it. And there was some humor that was attached to it from the audience. We're like, oh, whatever, she's just overreacting. But he felt that as well when Henry passed. He was like, now I know exactly what she's going through. This this type of thing just comes out, and just seeing this version right here. But then also talking about how other people were trying to help him through grief, and certain things worked and certain things didn't. And he had this really great moment where he was talking about the gift of flowers and what flowers tend to do, and how you have to treat them, and the thought that goes into them kind of had almost a negative effect on him, and constantly going back into that grief spiral. But one of the moments that I think really hit me, and I don't have a picture of it, but it's the idea of when people said, "Oh, well, why don't you just go get another dog? Why don't you get another pet, another companion to kind of do that?" And for all the things that kind of go through people's heads, like, "Oh, I don't want to replace this person. How will I ever love them as much as I loved, my other dog, my other cat?" But he put it in a very great sentence, and it's him having this conversation with an imaginary future pet. And the last thing he says is, "I'm not ready to say hello again, because I'm not ready to say goodbye again." And that killed me, because Jason and I have gone through that multiple times with our animals, because we live in a house that's filled with, it's a zoo, and
it is a zoo.
It's so hard, when you say goodbye, you're like, I can't go through this again. I really can't. But you can't go through that again with the same person, with the same animal. You'll never go through that exact same thing with the same animal again. But, you can bring in another animal into your life and give them a wonderful life, and show them love, and they can, be a part of your life as well. And yes, you're going to have to say goodbye again. That's inevitability for anybody and anything. But getting to share that love, it's not finite. You don't have a finite amount to give. And, sometimes that being able to get past that moment, it's like, are you ready to say hello to another animal again? Sometimes it takes a year. Sometimes it takes a month. It's just when something, when a little kitten or a dog or a rescue or anything, makes eyes at you, and like, okay,
Yeah,
you belong in our home.
if I could just interject, when you were talking
Oh,
about
sure.
standout moments, it's something for
yeah.
me that was a standout moment isn't something that he processed, but when he was talking with the vet tech,
Oh, yeah.
and he says to the vet tech, "I hope I never see you again."
Yep.
And the vet tech responds, "I get that a lot." That was also something, like a component I never really thought about. That there are people that deal with this type of grief on a daily basis. And for whatever reason, that really hit me. That really hit me, and that's something I don't think I ever could put myself through professionally. If that was my trade. I thought that was a very powerful moment.
For me, the standout page. There's a scene towards the end of it where he's kind of coming to the point of self-acceptance and about himself and everything else. But he said, I was beginning to wonder, is it strong to pretend to be strong? And that's the scene that punched me in the gut, because I literally just the number of times that I just started openly weeping reading this goddamn thing was ridiculous. But just I read that and just like it's like there's no pretending to be strong right now. I'm just going to go for it and just bawled, because I think too. Yes, this is a very particular subject matter. Yes, it's talking about a very specific type of thing, but there's so much in here that relates to grief just throughout of whatever kind that you have, and just life in general, where I think that it's a very important message, especially for men. And I will say that, not necessarily limiting to that, maybe more so for straight men of a very particular type, but especially for men. Is it strong to pretend to be strong? Because that's lacking a certain amount of honesty, and I would argue no. In a lot of ways, there's sometimes you have to be strong for other people and things like that, but it's okay to relinquish that facade of strength when you're not being strong. And there's so much in life that will help you with, if you can relinquish that. So for folks who maybe, even if you're not, you're just reading good comics, there's a message there that resonates throughout. The fabric of our beings.
Yes, Steve.
So I haven't read it, and watching you guys go through it, I don't know that I would be in a place to read it, because my good boy is 12 now. He gets Librela shots every month, and he's on carprofen for joint stuff, and I know we're nearing the end. But can you go back to the page with the flowers? Because I want to point out just how masterful the storytelling is on this, and hopefully that'll give my voice a chance to stop quavering here. Shit, man, the book affected me, and I saw 2 pages and heard you guys talking about it.
Yep.
So I don't think I could make it through the book. But looking at, I'm pointing like you guys can see. Okay, looking at that last panel when he talks about what should have been a reminder of someone's care. I can't read it quite.
Here, let me try it again and see if it maybe will come up a little bit bigger. There we go. Try it.
So yeah,
Here we go.
what should have been a kind gesture from people who cared just felt like a reminder of death's imminent touch. So this is comics perfection, and what makes it perfect is the fact the panel's not framed, lingers. The words are wonderfully chosen, but that negative space, that delay, that linger, when you go from the words to pan down to the dead flowers, I mean, that's a fucking masterclass in a single panel. And if the storytelling is like that throughout, again, I don't think I could make it through it. I don't know that I would ever be strong enough to make it through it. No kidding aside, that's just coming in cold. That's incredibly moving. So I didn't mean to step on you guys' toes, but
no, not at all. Thank you for that. Like, no, thank you. Like,
right. And just as I said earlier about there not being, there's no wrong time to process the grief. Possibly there's no right or wrong time to sample this, but that it exists, I think, is a comfort. This is something I could see handing off to people.
Yeah.
And say, read this in 5 months. I could definitely see doing.
Read this when you're ready.
I'm being a dick. I'm putting it in my guest bathroom and going to catch somebody unawares and just a shitter. That's what you
You're
get
gonna
for coming into my house, motherfucker.
You're gonna get people
I'm
punching you
on
out
my
of
shitter.
nowhere when they walk out of that bathroom.
I'm just here sobbing from the bathroom at a party.
That's right.
You asshole! I can see it. So this reminded me a little bit of, because again, Cena. My favorite work from Cena is his autobiographical work.
Yeah.
You know, where
Yeah.
his comic character of himself, you know, goes through a lot of the things that he's experienced in life, and you know, he talks about how he processes that and just how he approaches life. There's another book that was also another writer's way of processing the passing of his pet, and that is Steve Orlando's Rainbow Bridge that came out several years ago, and that was again had a very similar impact on me when trying to read it, but it also was a much more fantastic, you know, fanciful version of this where you know you get to see that things are okay afterwards. You know, the little boy who's lost his pet, he can actually go and be with his dog, you know, and the dog is encountering other animals that have crossed over and all sorts of things, and it just creates this sort of imaginary world, this future where you know, where his dog is okay and everything turns out okay in the end, and he can process his grief through that. And Steve's process, you know, when I talked about that with him, like he basically said the same thing, that it was his way of working through his grief in a very sort of, you know, imaginative, fantastical way. And this is another way of going through it. This is, you know, talking about the real feelings, talking about the real situations that he found himself in, and you know, being in a beautiful French villa surrounded by, you know, reality TV stars and spending the entire night crying in bed. You know, that's that's kind of what we, you know, what he was able to work through. But yeah, very recommended.
And
you know,
just for conceptual continuity, I want to add in there that this was born on Kickstarter, and that's the way that I think a lot of us all got it. So it's you know, again, Kickstarter is a great place to find some really good comics. And it was also, you know, because back matter matters, it was also really cool to read through there and read the names of several people that we know who contributed to this book and made it come to life. Like there are several of our friends in the, you know, listed in there, which I think is very cool.
And there's also several people who should be in there but don't read the Kickstarter updates, like usual. But again, if you do want to go after this, people that are listening and viewing, you can go to cenagrace.com.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
I say let's put that to the side, dry our eyes, and talk some superhero shit for a little while. So you have a hot book, so why don't we start with yours?
It's a hot, sexy book, is what it is. Very hot, very sexy, very DC, in fact. So we talk about the Absolute Universe. There's a lot of great Absolute books out there. And the DC Universe Absolute series count is expanding. We're actually adding a couple more books. One of them that's coming out is Absolute Catwoman, but this one that dropped this week is Absolute Green Arrow. So I read this. I never read Green Arrow books. You know, these guys have talked about Green Arrow. They love Green Arrow. They like talking about, you know, some of the stories that he's gone through in the main DC universe. And I smile and I nod and I'm like, yeah, a guy with an arrow. He's Batman,
Yeah,
but he wears.
I just have to
smiles.
interject. You haven't even read the Kevin Smith, Phil Hester Quiver?
Oh no, not the Kevin Smith one. No.
Oh, honey.
Nope.
You should
no.
change that, or at least the Longbow Hunters.
Or the
All right,
Mike
go
Grell,
ahead.
Ed Hannigan one.
Yep. So Longbow Hunters, that is actually referenced in this first issue, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, so I'm like, I don't read that. But of course, I don't read Batman either. And yet I've been picking up and reading every issue of Absolute Batman. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep my streak going. I'm gonna pick up and give every Absolute book a try. And I have to say, I love this first issue. I think it's a great introduction to this new world, this new version of Green Arrow. And he's not even in the book all that much. In fact, the main focus of this book is Dinah Lance. So it opens with a tech billionaire and all of his bodyguards basically being attacked by a masked individual who is shooting green arrows that are tipped with poison and killing off everybody here. And in fact, the tech billionaire, is not going to make it out of this encounter alive. But that's just the prelude. The majority of the book concerns itself with Dinah Lance. Dinah is a former Star City cop. She became an MMA fighter, fighting under the moniker Black Canary. But now she is a bodyguard for hire. So she, is a bodyguard for rich pop stars and debutantes, and really hates who she works with. And she's going through a lot of issues. She's processing grief from the death of her mother. Her father is dealing with cancer, and there's a lot of stress on her for trying to, keep them getting enough money so that they can pay for his medications and his treatments. And unfortunately, because of that, she has to take jobs that she doesn't want. And one of them is working for Hector Hammond. She gets hired by a gentleman named Malcolm Merlin to be the bodyguard for Hector Hammond, and not just him, but also a kind of a Weasley pharmaceutical CEO whose previous pharmaceutical company was being sued for billions of dollars, and he was able to sort of like squeeze his way out of that, declare bankruptcy, and then get rehired to become a CEO of another pharmaceutical company, thereby missing any responsibility or having to take any responsibility for the deaths and opiate addictions that his previous company caused. And she hates this. She hates the fact that she has to do this, but she needs the money. And so it turns out that the reason she was hired is because she knew this billionaire, this other tech billionaire that had partnered with the original person in the preface, named Ollie something, who had started an app for investing, kind of in the vein of Robinhood or Acorns, called Green Arrows. And the logo, of course, are two green arrows pointing in a direction. And it just so happens that he was found dead a year previously, and now his partner is dead. So is there a connection? Is there somebody out there who's picking off these rich tech CEOs? I mean, part of us are like, well, we know Oliver Queen is got to be alive, right? And he's the new Green Arrow, and he's taking out his previous partner because he's a total jerk and a horrible person. And we get a little bit more of that because Hector Hammond and this other weasel, they decide that they're going to be going into Oliver Queen's old arrow cave, or his toy storage, to go in and see if they can find something, maybe some information that he has to connect him to other potential murders, so that they can better protect themselves. And of course, it doesn't work out for them, and almost doesn't work out for Dinah either. They encounter this new Green Arrow vigilante, who takes out several other bodyguards and also relieves Hector Hammond of his right hand. And that's where we'll end it, because there's a great reveal in the last page, which I think is pretty cool. But it also references many other things. There's a lot of Easter eggs that get thrown out, and some characters that get sort of mentioned, and you're like, oh, wow, how did they work out? How are they, because they're part of the family, the Green Arrow family in this. But I do have to say, the creative team on this, let me see if I can make sure I get everybody's named right. One of my more recent favorites, Pornsec Pachechote, who is fantastic. If you ever read The Good Asian, that's one of his best works. I absolutely love and recommend that.
Would also be a good crossover for Athena Voltaire. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, Chinatown in the.
Not be interested, but I really enjoyed The Good Asian.
It was incredible.
So good.
I'm an E-lister, so I get it.
But yeah, so I'm excited that he's writing this. Raphael Albuquerque on art, Marcelo Maiolo on colors, and Jeff Powell on letters. I'm really excited with this creative team, and I can't wait to see where Absolute Green Arrow goes. And yeah, guess what? I'm going to be buying and reading this every month now too, which is insane because I don't read Green Arrow books. But now I am. So
okay.
I can't believe DC let them get away with some of the stuff that they're gonna do in this book.
Oh man, body count in this is high.
It's and it's. I mean, there's a lot that happens in this book, and that there's if if you listen to some interviews of where they're going, there's some things that go into some places that really are kind of parallel to some things that are happening in real life. I can't believe DC is letting them get away with what they're doing. I am very glad they are. That makes me very happy, especially in the year where they finally published Swamp Thing '89, and they're just like, "Hey, fuck censorship at a publisher level." I love it, but I'm just like, God bless. Just
You think they're trying to get it all out of their system before Ellison takes over?
maybe,
Probably.
I didn't even think. I
Maybe.
can't think.
I'm sorry.
Maybe
maybe.
Oh,
buy those
Okay.
books now, kids.
yeah. It is a kind of painful wait that I have to wait for this book, but hopefully, we're getting closer to the end of the month. I'll be there.
Yeah.
All right. Couple weeks ago, I updated everyone on what's going on in Detective Comics. I flipped a coin. Why don't we do it with Action? Okay, so this is Action 1097. It's part of the Reign of the Superboys storyline. So this is where we're at with Superman. Superman was the victor in the DCKO event. His energies dispersed, they think, going into various people. And some of the energy, some of the Omega energy went to the past. And the subset team of Justice League Unlimited that went after the Omega energy that went into the past were the trio of Martian Manhunter, Mary Marvel, and Booster Gold. And they go back to when Superboy was a teenager, when Superman was a teenager. And in this continuity now, he was Superboy. And there's a lot of speculation about what exactly is going on with the Legion of Superheroes. They definitely were a casualty, at least at this point, from the way things look with the events of DCKO. There is a new Legion book coming out, but this represents the first time that Clark met other super-powered individuals in this storyline. So Reign of the Superboys has a lot of mirrors to Reign of the Supermen from the post-death of Superman storyline. It covers 4 different Superboys. It covers Clark. It covers Connor Kent, who was involved in the Supergirl storyline. There is a different Superboy Prime. Same concept, though, that he's from our Earth, for some very meta discussions in the main Superman book. And over in Superman Unlimited, there is a John Kent who is de-aged a little bit and may not be the same John Kent. So we have to let that storyline unfold. But just like the introductions of Cyborg Superman and Eradicator and Steel and Superboy in the 90s, we have a focus on 4 different versions this time of Superboy. So Steve, if you can go to the first image that we have here. Do you think you can move that? There we go. So just as it says there, it's Metropolis years ago. We see Clark getting punched, and it's the first time he's ever been hurt from any kind of physical action against him. And though this is carrying over from what happened in the previous issue, which is a lot of setup, I have to say, there is a version of the Lord of Time named Epoch, who is there basically to see what's going on with his mission is almost the same as the Justice Leaguers, of seeing what happened with this energy and trying to figure stuff out, but he's not doing it on the side of Angels. So Superboy crashes back into his own barn, into the Kent barn. And Steve, if you can go to the next panel. There's already action going on where this Epoch is fighting the 3 Justice League members. And Steve, if you can go to the next panel that we have there, the next page. So they basically introduce themselves to Clark after Epoch disappears, and we have these really concise and economic introductions to the three characters. So you have John Johns with his background that he's from Mars. Mary Marvel has been endowed with certain virtues, and Booster Gold is a scheming little shit. That, access some elements from the future that he wasn't supposed to, and went back in time and became a superhero. And there was like very much like a Justice Gang vibe to the action there. So they're talking with Superboy, and he's like very clear that they know stuff about him, and just an offhanded comment about this gun that was left behind. And John says, that does look Krypton in nature. And this is early enough in Superman's development that he just asks, what's Krypton? So they know from this point they can only reveal so much. Again, this universe is kind of reforming, but it's also reforming around Superman. So the whole like timey-wimey Back to the Future conundrums, they have to pay respect to it. So what are they going to do after this? Well, they're going to eat. They're all really hungry. So Clark brings his new friends into the house, and again, the Kents are very welcoming. They've already seen some shit because they have an alien living with them, and he introduces the versions of them, of the civilian versions of the characters, and it leads to some really touching moments actually, of John kind of apologizing to Booster Gold because Booster went through some shit in KO, and basically apologizes, saying, hey, we shouldn't have had you go off to the source well by yourself, and again, Mark Waid is writing the Justice League Unlimited title, so there are some carry through here. The standout moments, though, were with Mary Marvel, because Mary, as Mary Batson, is the same age as Clark at this point. And, as they're talking about, she's saying, like, I don't really know him in the present day. Like, if any of us have a relationship with him, it's Billy. And they have some really nice moments here of just two teenagers talking to each other. And of course they're planning about what to do next to try to find this Epoch villain. But they, this almost looks like the start of a friendship. It really does. And I would be very interested to see how that carries over. And then, Steve, if you can just keep going there, Epoch returns to the ranch. The much younger version of Jonathan Kent says, get away from my boy in the way that a farmer would. And then they discover something after he flies off. It's like, uh-oh, he took Kal-El's rocket ship. So this was just a nice 22-page superhero, filled cliche and goodness, some great fight scenes. The artist in here that provided this is a female artist, Scotland. Not that it matters if they're male or female, but who's a new name to me, Skylar Patridge. That she is very good with action scenes. I didn't provide too many there because I think the most important parts of the development were the character moments. But it lives up to its title. It's Action Comics, and I'm just really happy to see the state that stuff is in right now. As we're saying, of the big two, DC has it all over Marvel right now, and with content like this, again, written by Mark Waid, art by Skylar Patridge, Action Comics. Oh my God, number 1097. They're almost at 1100. But wow. Especially, I gotta say though, if you were a fan of the Superman film, this is the book to go to. This really is, because I think they give you enough of influences from the film, but firmly set in the main universe, and I think a pretty good introduction to the main universe. So.
I haven't spoken about it a lot, but Action Comics is very easily one of my top 5 books coming out of them right now.
Yeah.
It is fantastic.
Oh,
Steve had to
looks like
go?
Steve had to
Yep,
go.
Steve had to go.
Okay.
He
Sorry,
said bye.
Steve.
Yep. But yeah, and also I love the way they illustrate the shorts on Teenage Superboy. Like,
Yeah.
Red
they're
jean
putting it
shorts.
on. Yeah, I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
but,
man.
but that's awesome. So, Caleb, you've got your book, and your book is not a DC book.
Yeah, I guess I didn't get them. No, I'm going to be the odd man out, as you know. I'm going to be a little bit different. So I'm neither talking about a book from DC or a book that's new. I'm talking about a book that comes out of the publisher Abram Comics that came out in 2024. But you ought to recognize the name of the writer illustrator who wrote this book because it's Nate Powell. Nate Powell of March fame, which is probably his best known work. Won the National Book Award. Has written and drawn several amazing things. Autobiographical comics, biographical comics, slice of life comics. Just does some really great work. And Nate is also a fellow Arkansan, which I think is super cool. And I've met him here in town, here in Little Rock a few different times. But this book, I picked it up because of when I saw the cover. I'd never read it before, and I was like, "Oh, Nate wrote a book about music. Let me check this out." And then I read a little bit about it, and it's like, "Oh, Nate wrote a book that's kind of rooted in the punk rock scene in Little Rock in the '90s, which is pretty freaking cool." So, never drew any national attention, but Little Rock had and still has, in a lot of ways, a very vibrant underground, like indie music scene and punk rock scene. There's places like the Whitewater Tavern, which is famous from like Tyler Childers cut his teeth there. All these amazing musicians, both from like punk and alt country and stuff. Vino's still around, which has been around forever, and so there's some really amazing stuff in there. So I picked up this book and I absolutely read it. It's 2024. I'm going to spoil some things if you haven't, but not too much. But the book really focuses on this punk band called Diamond Mine. The Arkansas flag has a diamond. We've got one of the only active diamond mines in the world that you can, just walk up and go dig for diamonds at. People find diamonds in it all the time. Very much a thing here in Arkansas. And this band is made up, it's a 4-piece. It's made up of Jody, who is the bassist for the band and the narrator and kind of the main focus of the story. Diana, who sings and writes music and is their lead kind of front woman. Napoleon, who plays lead guitar, and their drummer, Steph. And the book starts off 1994, which amazing year for music, just period. That phenomenal year, and also for movies. Lots of cool things came out in 1994. Made a list that we can talk about later if we have time, but starts out there, and the band is loading stuff in, and they're getting ready to play a gig, and they're talking about their new songs, and they get in there and they just let it rip, and it's a success, right? And this is going to kick off their tour and who they are. And so they do this, and one of their songs it's the title song of their album that they'll go back and cut, but it's also the title of the book. It's called Fall Through. And every time they start Fall Through, Jody in the book kind of connects this to being a music and how the connection of, hey, this song, yes, we're going to play it over and over again, but this moment's only going to last one time, right? It's new every time. And no matter how many times they play it, it's going to take her back in time to where she's played it before and where they wrote it, but it's also moving and it doesn't stand still, and it's a very kinetic song. And I really love that from both a band perspective, from a music perspective, in the sense of, hey, each performance, yes, you're doing the song again, but each performance is and should be unique. It's not cookie cutter. There's something that's going to happen that's never happened before, that'll never happen again, and it is very moment in time. And number one, before I just completely dive in, I loved this book. I thought it was phenomenal. When I was reading it, I just was all in. I felt some kind of way about this book after I finished the book and I read something. Actually, I read one of the premise or whatever, the elevator pitch on the book's jacket, and I felt some kind of way after. Let me get to that later. So that's the pitch of the book. As all good stories go, it cuts from there and it takes you back in time to Jody's formative years back in the 70s. I think it's 1978, where she had just graduated high school, and she was into rock and roll, and her dad was very protective Arkansas dad, conservative kind of state, but loved his daughter, allowed her to be her own person, drove her to Tulsa, Oklahoma, to see a band play. Band that she didn't know a whole lot about, but was making a lot of noise at the time, and that band was the Sex Pistols. So she goes to their show in Tulsa. I think it tracks with history. I need to go verify this, Bill. Maybe you can. Their Tulsa show right before that band imploded and never was a band.
Yeah, no, they played 8 shows in the States, culminating in Winterland in San Francisco, and Tulsa was one of the dates. Yeah.
And so Jody was at that Tulsa show and talks about being 18, and her dad was all waiting out in the parking lot, let her go do her thing. She was able to link up. She met somebody at the show who turns out to be a journalist who was following the band around and was talking to her, and she was like, well, I want to go on the tour bus. And her dad happened to be there, and he was like, yeah, let my kid go on the tour bus. And the journalist was like, no, your daughter has no business being on this tour bus. And then groupies walk up and get on. He's like, well, what about those? Are you saying my daughter's not good enough for you? And she's like, Dad, chill out. But Steve Jones, as kind of catches what's happening, throws a broken head of a guitar out, which I have no idea what actually happened to that show, what may or may not guitar that may have been. I do know that Steve Jones, the guitar that he started out playing and played through most of their tenure, was actually the guitarist of, I think, the guitar that used to belong to one of the New York Dolls, if music history is right.
It may be, but it more likely is the Faces.
Okay.
Because that was the Rod Stewart and the Faces, because that was the band that they stole almost all their gear from.
Well, and Malcolm,
Steve Jones was a thief.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and Malcolm McLaren, I think, also had something to do with both the New York Dolls and maybe the Faces too. So there's some connection there.
Yeah. He was the last manager for the New York Dolls.
Yeah, and so that may be that's part of where that legend comes in at. But anyway, so that plants the seed, and after that moment, she kind of goes into what I think a lot of people do. Life happens. She's not playing music, but she wakes up several years later and was like, I'm working in a gas station in Arkansas. Fuck it. What am I doing? Let me start a band. And she starts a punk band, and that turns out to be Diamond Mine in 1994. And so they are writing this music, and it formulates together, and they have this very powerful song and this momentum that builds throughout their tour and the self-publishing. They print 700 records, arguments, breakups, get backs together, things like that. Phenomenal book that really just dives into the life of a band, how these things live in amongst themselves, some of the struggles that can go through, and how the band grows and ebbs and flows and things like that, and just where they're left with as the band comes together. And Jody finds out a lot about herself, also that she's at the very least a bisexual woman, what that's like, and exploring. So there's some queer elements to this book. Go read this book. That is what this book is, right? That is the book. It is very mostly linear, things like that, very steeped into. Here's where I felt some kind of way. If you read the book, the opening pitch to it is the band Diamond Mine seems to emerge in 1979 as Arkansas's first punk group. Instead, this quartet's revealed to be an interdimensional travelers from 1994, guided largely against their will by a powerful spell that vocalist Diana embeds in their song Fall Through. That's not this book at all. There is nothing in the actual story here that implies that they are interdimensional traveling. There's nothing in the story that implies. She talks about writing spells into this book. That part is in there. She talks about pouring herself in almost, and maybe because I went and saw this band a few weeks ago, but in a very Florence and the Machine type way. Like my music is music craft. It's witchcraft, right? Diana comes at it like that in the book. There's nothing in here that insinuates that they go back in time every time they sing this, or they're having they're replaying shows that they could have played. None of that is in this book, at least that I picked up on. And I went back and read it again because I was like, okay, I missed very significant plot points. Apparently, I was not doing the close reading that I should have been doing on a Nate Powell book. It's not here. Wow. I don't understand it. This book is enough. This book is wonderful. I don't know who read this book and said, hey, Nate, maybe you should make this an interdimensional timey-wimey time travel thing. It don't need to be, and it's not in it. Nothing in the text supports that. And so that's why I almost am viscerally pissed off about this book. So I don't know. I have no idea maybe if I'm not picking up on something. If you've read this book, come to our Facebook group, connect with me on Instagram or on Blue Sky or wherever, and tell me where I'm missing what I'm missing, because I'm not seeing it. And it's troubling me. I'm going to lose sleep over this. So that's where I'm leaving it. But a wonderful story nonetheless.
This is really in my wheelhouse, as you can tell. Who was the publisher for this?
Abrams Books.
Abrams, that's right. You did say that. Yeah, I don't know much about Little Rock Punk, but I do know that it was one of the not necessarily the bands that came out of there, but the fandom. That Little Rock was one of the major centers of noise rock fandom.
Yeah.
Like there's a
Yep.
band Unwound from
Yep.
Portland, and I think with their metrics that one out of every seven records by Unwound was sold
The
in
Little
the
Rock
art.
area. Yeah,
Yeah,
that would not surprise. We really do, and I am, shame on me for not being steeped into it. Mostly because I just on a Friday I want to stay inside and not stay out late. But I don't go to nearly as many shows as I could. But again, we've got places like Whitewater Tavern, Vino's, several places downtown where there are just really, really cool bands that play
yeah.
and come in all the time. Like,
Okay, so Caleb, this is like you listen to our show, we're gonna have tangents.
uh-huh.
Um, have you heard of a band called Everyone Asked About You?
I have not. No.
Okay, Little Rock band.
Okay.
Everyone Asked About You. They released one record in the late '90s, broke up, went about their lives. One person became a swim coach, another a nurse. Has a couple of LGBT members, and years later, the Numero Group, which is one of the best reissue labels out there, reissues their first album. They gain notoriety. They start playing venues that were much bigger than they ever played. They put out their first new album since their first in the late '90s in 2024. There is a Rolling Stone article about them. Check it out.
I
It's
very much will. Yeah, that's awesome. I need to know more
and it
about.
was and I was reading it. It was like, oh my god, yep, Unwound. That was their big influence, Unwound.
Yeah, I need to get more steeped in the Little Rock music scene, mostly because I'd like to, as I've been playing more and more regularly, and just I've been playing the shit out of music lately. I've been playing a lot, and I'm not good by any means. I've gotten a lot better than I used to be. Would kind of like to find some folks to play some music with. That'd be super fun. But I just want to take a brief minute because the book is mostly centered around 1994, and that was yet again an amazing year for music. Nine Inch Nails' Downward Spiral came out that year. Alice in Chain, the Crow movie and soundtrack came out that year. For me, one of my favorite albums, which is Machine Head's Davidian, came out that year. Jar of Flies from Alice in Chains came out that year. There is a shit ton of amazing music and movie. Natural Born Killer came out. Pulp Fiction came out. So just from pop culture, 1994 was an insanely good year. There's so much good stuff in that year that you could just live in forever.
I did.
And you are.
And the best album that year lived through this. Hull.
Yeah, whole. Yep.
Above everything. It's a shame that it's not remembered the way it should be. And yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not.
I love that.
I wish it was. Okay. So we got three pretty cool books there and one that broke our hearts. So good stuff.
Very good stuff.
All right.
Go look
All
them
right,
up,
so-
and while you're doing it, jump on the Kickstarter and support Athena Voltaire.
Yep. And Steve did apologize that he had to leave. So we all got that message. So, again, Steve M is going to supply the links for Steve B stuff, and we'll be good there. But it's always a thrill talking to Steve Bryant, and luckily we'll be seeing him in less than 3 weeks. Very cool. All right, so we're going to start wrapping this episode up, and when we wrap an episode of the Comic Book Bears podcast up, one of our almost our penultimate stops is where we show off our Geek Gets. Now, I didn't really get much this, and I'm usually like the one that has stuff to show off. So can we still go around? Do we have stuff to show off? Steve, what you got?
Well, I just have one thing. So the last time I was here, I had a brown cup. This time I've been drinking from a green cup of the Burger King collector's cups for the Mandalorian and Grogu. So this one has a bunch of symbols, a bunch of Mandos, and of course a little. It's hard to see, but a little Grogu on there is concentrating very, very strongly. So
Yeah,
that's
and
why I've
in
been
terms
drinking out
of
of all night.
the Mandalorian and Grogu, watch this space.
Yes.
We got some brewing.
Yes.
Okay. Caleb, what do you have to show up there in terms
So first and foremost, I have it on good authority that the Cubist Flamingo believes in you and wants you to have a beautiful week. Be safe on this Memorial Day and think about the, what all that entails. So that's it.
Absolutely.
My Geek Get, I'm actually really excited about this, and so it's not an average Geek Get. I have a new guitar.
Oh, nice.
Gorge.
This is an acoustic
Beautiful.
bass. This is an acoustic bass that was handmade by a gentleman that is my third or fourth cousin, who in his retirement years, he decided that he wanted to build acoustic guitars. And he's been a guitarist, he's been a musician most of his life, but he is somebody, and I can relate to this, that music does not come naturally to him, so he's had to work really hard on it. And so he builds acoustic guitars, and so far he's built close to 30. He's built 2 basses. One was for himself, and the other one is for me. And he based it off of a Gibson SG. I got to see this instrument come to life from just bare pieces of wood and blocks, handmade in Hazen, Arkansas, by just a fantastic individual. And he doesn't sell them. His name is his last name is Shuck. That's where the S on the headstock comes in at, if you can see. He just does it for friends, and I don't know if he ever will sell it, but incredibly well designed. It's got a port on the side, which is not something you see a whole lot. This gives this thing so much volume, and one of the reasons that people don't play acoustic basses and without electrifying it is because you can't hear it. This thing resonates. I can be playing it up here, and Roger will be like, "Are you like playing that into a microphone?" Like, it gets loud for an acoustic bass. Never seen anything like this, and so I love this. And so thank you both to Mr. Shuck and to my dad, who bought me this because he wanted me and my brother. He bought my brother an acoustic guitar. He bought this for me because he wanted us to have a handmade guitar from home, and that was family.
That is
So
gorgeous.
So
this
cool.
is I'm in
What
love
a
with this.
story. God.
Yeah, I'm absolutely in love with it. And it's fretless, so it's gonna make me a better player whether I want to be or not, because I have to understand and hear the notes that I'm playing. I don't have frets to go by. So just an incredible piece of equipment. I love it. I just love noodling on this thing, and I get to sit around and play it in my living room without bothering anybody. So
All right.
when Roger won't let me turn up that thing, I get to bring this one off the rack.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have much to show off. Well, one thing though, well, 2 things in my hand. You guys remember I was doing a lot of comic book auctions a few years ago, and then that resource kind of stopped. And there's another one that I've been attending through Mint Hunter Comics, who is one of the best YouTubers. James is one of the best YouTubers in terms of comic stuff. I mean, there's stuff that I'm not necessarily aligned with, like slabbed books, but still at the same token, some interesting stuff, some good content. But he runs an auction, and I'm kind of getting close to the original, to kind of closing out the original Valiant run of books, and I was able to get 2 of the big key issues. So I did get the first issue of Exo Man of War,
Nice.
Oh wow.
and I did
Nice.
get the 4th issue of Eternal Warrior, which is the first appearance of Bloodshot. So
Cool.
kind of I'm closing in. There's only like 6 more key issues from the early stuff, and then some of the later issues, because the print runs were so low, they're a little hard to find, but I'm closing in on it. Not that much left to buy. And then just to reiterate or just reinforce with Steve's, last time I didn't have a cup to drink from, but this time I do have the same green cup from Star Wars, the Mandalorian and Grogu, and I also have a blue cup with my boy Zeb.
I didn't get a cup or a popcorn bucket because my husband's mean.
Yeah, like I
True.
did say that I don't know Roger, but I would advise him that like that's grounds for divorce.
They have these really adorable little
You
Grogu.
look
I'm thinking
so sad. The
I'm,
sadness in your eyes in that picture
it's
just
still there.
Oh,
That's what these are. These are sadness bags.
yeah.
We'll
No
we'll be
Grogu.
we'll be showing the audience, showing everybody here that same picture very shortly.
Yeah.
So
All right. Well, we're at our final stop on this show, and that's something we call the Woofs of the Week. In the bear community, if you find a fella attractive, you woof at him. And we do something very similar where we woof at something that might be comic book or comic book related, but it also might be a TV program, a film, a charitable initiative, anything under the sun that we think you, fair listener or viewer, may be interested in sampling. I'll start as I always do with Steve. Steve, what is your Woof of the Week?
my for the week actually goes out to two movies, and not the movie that you're thinking of, but just generally a movie or a couple movies that I got to see this weekend before the big one started, and that is the 1-2 punch of Hokum and Obsession. So Hokum, of course, directed by Damien McCarthy, an Irish filmmaker who's famous for a couple years ago he did an amazing film called The Oddity or Oddity. Excellent film, super scary, really beautiful. And then also we have Obsession, which is I want to say the first full-length feature film from Curry Barker, although he did have Milk and Cereal, which is available on YouTube to watch. That was kind of his a big introduction to his horror style of filmmaking. Both of these were excellent. Both of these were a really good 1-2 punch if you're looking for some great horror. Hokum, I believe, is just about leaving the theaters, but Obsession has been a runaway hit and has been making a lot of a lot of money, especially for a first major release feature for this creator. So both of them very good, very different, but highly recommended. So Hokum and Obsession if you like horror movies.
Okay. Over to Caleb. Caleb, what is your Wolf of the Week?
So my Wolf of the Week also goes out to a musical, to a movie venture that I took, and as you probably surmised from the previous conversation, I went and saw The Mandalorian and Grogu. We went actually last night to go see it. Had a great time. It's a wonderful movie. It's hilarious. It strikes all the right chords. It is expansive on the Star Wars canon. It's steeped in the lore. It shows you all around the universe, and there are cool beings and creatures and monsters and spaceships and action and fighting, and Grogu is awesome and the Mandalorian is awesome. It is just a fun time. It's everything that I wanted to be. There are moments where it gets incredibly serious and heartfelt, and then there are moments that are just absolutely hilarious. The Babu Frick creatures are back in the best way. It's fucking funny. And there's all kinds of stuff. So go see this movie. It is super fun. I'm sure that there are people on the internet who are going to do what people on the internet do. But there's no reason not to see this movie. It was one of the better Star Wars things I've seen in a very, very long time. And I loved it. I kind of want to go back and see it again. And I don't really double dip on pop culture movies anymore. Just not my thing. But I thought this was great. And they sell really cool things with it too. Like really adorable Baby Yoda Grogu fully formed little popcorn buckets that, unless you're married to somebody who hates you, bring home. I didn't get to, and I'm offended by it. Taking umbrage, and we'll be bringing this and raising this point up in future arguments.
Okay, so I do have to ask though, Caleb, have you made it over? I know you're the healthiest of the three of us. In terms of your eating habits. Have you been to a Burger King lately?
No.
Okay, so at the very least, just pop in, because as some consolation, you can get a free Burger King crown with Grogu.
I need that in my life right now.
Just run into one. Don't even don't even order anything. Just pop in, and they have them all
I'll
over
get some fries. I like their fries. They have good fries.
Yeah. If you get a kid's meal that comes with a toy, you automatically do get a crown too, because
but the crowns are all over at least
they're
the stores.
everywhere.
They're all
Yeah.
over the stores.
Yeah.
So okay, I do want to see Caleb with a crown.
I should get one. Yeah, I need
I've
one.
got a couple. I've got a couple at the house. If he doesn't have one for Heroes
had
Con,
so
we
much-
will bring
I
one.
could- we've had so much Burger King in the last few weeks. I have so many of these goddamn things. The stormtrooper. You'll get one, and you'll get one. Like everybody.
Well, that's why I have 4 of these because I went to
I-
2 different Burger Kings
Well,
and I
you
got the
get-
same one 4 times.
Yeah.
I don't even like
That's
Burger
the
King that
the
much.
perils of the perils of the film promotion. Sometimes you get tons of stuff. So, all right, my woof of the week goes out to a TV series on Netflix, premiered on, was it Thursday or Friday? May have been like Thursday night at midnight or something. It premiered late last week. We can just put it that way. And the show I'm talking about is The Burrows.
Mhm.
It is executive produced by the Duffer Brothers of Stranger Things fame. And yes, the elevator pitch for this is Stranger Things in a retirement community. But it's more than that. Fantastic cast. Alfred Molina, Alfred Woodard, Gina Davis.
Gina Davis. Gina Davis.
Yeah, she's fantastic in this, and it centers around Sam Cooper, who is Alfred Molina's character, who is a recently widowed and retired aeronautical engineer who reluctantly moves into this retirement community after the death of his wife, and immediately things are fucking weird. And I don't want to reveal too much. 6 episodes. Go explore for it yourself. If you like Stranger Things, you will like this. I guarantee that. I
It is
guarantee.
on my list. It is on the
Yep.
list of things to watch.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Along with the Boys finale, and a couple other things, and also the entirety of For All Mankind because I have yet to watch it.
Yeah. My next one is
how they
because
made
I,
Homelander a bad guy. They set him up to be a good guy so well through the rest of the film or the rest of the show. That seems weird to me how it ended with him being a bad guy. So strange. So
Yeah.
strange.
So weird.
just because I'm in the Star Wars mode, I do have to finish Maul. I do have to
Yeah,
finish.
Maul. I need to finish too. That it started off really strong, so I'm excited to finish.
And I'd
it.
really like to get it done by Wednesday, when you will see Steve and myself. No, sadly, no Caleb, but we do have Arkansas represented for
And well represented. You got the right
for
Arkansas
the-
for Star Wars.
one of the Star Wars Bears episode where we talk about Star Wars stuff, and of course we'll be talking about the Mandalorian and Grogu. That'll be the live stream on Wednesday, and we will be getting an audio episode of that out fairly shortly too.
Yeah.
So until next time, I'm Billy Z.
I'm Steve Morey.
I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
Again, we are the Comic Book Bears podcast. You can find us on most social media as Comic Book Bears. We are on Facebook as Comic Book Bears Podcast. If you want to write to us, please do so by sending an email to comicbookbears@gmail.com. If you want to listen to us, you can do so through Apple Podcasts, through Spotify, and many of the other podcatching platforms. And if you watched us through YouTube or one of the other facilities where we provide our live streams, joined us live, thank you. If you are watching us later, which you can do through our YouTube channel, please like and subscribe. I already said until next time, so if you're listening to the audio version, you're going to hear a woof and an explosion, and we'll be back real soon. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye. And happy Memorial Day. Forgot to say that.